Hi, welcome to Camp Happy Mo. I'm so glad that you're here with me today, and I appreciate that you came back to watch another midweek video. So last week I mentioned that I was going through my Christmas things and I came across some envelopes that had bits and pieces in them, and some of them had instructions and some of them didn't. And what I mean by that is this, and this is what I often do. As I'm creating things and there are pieces left over, I'll set them aside in a little bin. And then every now and then I go through that bin and I pair pieces up together with some other things that I might have laying around, and I'll put them in an envelope. The envelopes are just plastic envelopes, whatever I can find here. And sometimes I will put notes with them, and sometimes I won't. Like this one just says, add Christmas paper, a sentiment, and put the snowman on a doily. Not a whole lot of instructions there for making the card, but enough that we can, well, actually make a card out of that. So these are some of the other examples. This one has some cardstock in it, some string, some Christmas paper, 2 sheets of the Christmas paper, and it says poinsettia petals, warm wishes. And then there's other instructions in here for what I was thinking we might do. And this one actually says to use a Queen and Company sketch number 16. And then for all of the different pieces, this is what to cut out of them to create the card. And again, another one. These ones all have sketch names to go with them. So we can easily create some Christmas cards out of these. And then I do this other random thing where, you know, I'll have bits and pieces of die cuts. It looks like there's some banners in here and some starbursts. And I'll just sketch out what I might want to do with those pieces. And I may not have time whenever I do all of these to put them together right then. But I do this, and then I throw all of these into a folder. And whenever I'm looking for a quick card to make, or days when my mojo is gone and I don't know what to make but I want to create something, I'll come into this folder and I'll pull these out and make a couple cards, because it tells me sketch number 33. I don't know if that's an Operation Right Home or if that's a Queen and Company or a Just Crafts. I'll have to go and look at the sketches. But then there's all the directions for what I plan to do with just this little colored image and this piece of pattern paper. Which stamp set to use with it to get some images. These were just some random circles that I could easily layer these on a card. A watercolor piece that was just random, and then there's just some scribbled notes. Pieces that I found in the bin that might go together to make a birthday card real quick. Mount on evening evergreen paper. I don't know what else we would do beyond that, but that's what we have. This was another one that this was just random pieces. You know, we got a piece of glitter paper and a white card base, purple paper, a piece of pattern paper, or a piece of textured paper that was run through an embossing folder, some collage samples, collage scraps that I have left over from our project, and then a die cut. No instructions with this one for what we should do with it, but I'm sure we could come up with a nice card from it. Again, just more random pieces that I matched up out of my bin of stuff. This one has some alcohol ink things on it and some die cut pieces that I thought maybe would go together, and some cardstock. And then this one has an image, some solid color cardstock, and a piece of glitter paper that I thought might match up. So what I think I'm going to do is my midweek videos, and this isn't all of them, by the way. I have a bunch more of these. But I think my midweek videos, I will just randomly pull one of these out of the box and we'll make a card. Sometimes we might make 2 cards. So let me go through these. I'll pick one for today and we'll make a quick card. So I've decided to go ahead and do this one. It's very, very minimal. We have this leftover watercolor piece. I know how this piece was made. This was done with an acrylic block, and I ink smooshed on it and then sprayed it down with water and then turned it over on top of the watercolor paper and just let it sit so that it soaked in. And I haven't done anything with it all these years because it just seems so small. It is, it's a 3x4. It's very tiny. So I did some research to figure out which set of sketches sketch number 37 was, and it is out of the Operation Right Home binder. So this is what the card sketch looks like. And you can see there's a glare on that. So that's the basic idea of it. So that's what we're going to do, that we're going to create with this. So let's see what our instructions tell us. And let's see if we can successfully make a card from instructions that I wrote several years ago at this point. So the first thing that it says to do is to mat the watercolor on a piece of black. I'm already going to change this, which is perfectly fine. Rather than matting this on black, I think I'm going to put a black layer on my card base. So let me get some pieces set out here. Okay, so this is a standard A2 size card base. It is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I have taken and I have die cut out a black panel front in front of it that is exactly 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I don't know if you can see it, but there is little stitched border going around it. So I think I'm going to mount that on the card base first. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just do this on the fly and see what comes of it. I don't know if anybody else does this, if you make little kits out of pieces that you find on your desk and then you go back to them later to make the cards. I found that it's a good way for me personally to deal with all the little bits and pieces that get left over. But I don't know if that's a normal thing to do, to go ahead and kit them up like that and have them ready to go. What do you do? Let me know in the comments. Like, what do you do after you've made a whole bunch of cards and you have a bunch of random pieces left over? What do you do with those random pieces? Do you throw them away? Do you store them for later? Do you make up little kits like these? Let me know. I'm curious as to what other people do. Because I've always done it this way. And then I get overrun with a bunch of kits to put together. But like I said earlier, it's nice to have them because then when my mojo is not there, I can easily pull one of these out, try to follow some instructions that were written who knows how long ago, and then see what comes of it. And already, like I said, I'm changing this one. So this will go on here. Our card sketch looks like this. I pulled it out of the plastic so there's not a glare on it. So it says to use this stamp set, which is a Colorado Craft Company set, and to use the mouse with the paintbrush second on the top row, which is this one. So let's go ahead and pull that one out, and we might actually end up changing that because there's a couple, well, all of them have paintbrushes. So let's just see which one will fit best on our piece. And I think any of them could really work well. And then it says to use the Ralph Waldo Emerson quote on a 1 3/4 by 3 3/4 piece of paper. So that's a piece of paper about this size. And that's to use that quote. Now we could change the quote too. The quote says, "In art, the hand can never execute anything higher than the heart can imagine." But there's also "Art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life." That's a Pablo Picasso quote. And then there's one that just says, "Let's paint the town red." And that's kind of fun. So, let's see, according to the sketch, this piece would go behind. And then it says a 1 3/4 by 5 strip here. So I've cut one that kind of matches the blue because there's not a lot of blue. So if we put this behind, and you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just glue it down. I'm all for just seeing what happens instead of trying to lay it out and make it all perfect. Let's just see what happens. So we'll position this here. Okay. And then this piece will go underneath this. And the idea of these little kits, my idea, was that it would make things a lot easier whenever I had time to create. So if we just put this piece down here, okay, and then this piece is going to go on top. But before I put this piece down, I am going to stamp on here. And being where this is going to fall, I think we might have to use the smaller quote, unless I stamp on here, which I think all of them are too big. Yeah, they're all too big to stamp on that piece. So I think we're going to go with Let's Paint the Town Red. And I think we can put any mouse up on there, really. And I kind of like this one here with the 2 mice on it. Yeah, okay, so I think we're going to do that, and we're going to do Let's Paint the Town Red. And I am going to heat emboss these so that they have a little bit of shine to them. And I am using Altenew Obsidian Black pigment ink. Let's get this ready. This is Wow embossing powder. It's the clear gloss super fine. So we'll powder this a little bit. Then we'll stamp our image. And because this is watercolor paper, I may need to stamp it twice. Nope, that looks pretty decent. So let's pour some powder over it. And let's heat emboss this. Now I am going to turn off the sound on this so you don't have to listen to the heat gun. Okay, that looks good. Now we'll go ahead and do the sentiment. And because I glued that piece down, we have to put the whole card base in here. So that's going to go about right there. Now the word red is at an angle down here. So this has to be moved up a little bit. But I think right there will be good. And then we'll heat emboss this piece. Okay, let me clean all this up and we'll come back and finish this card. All right, so let's wrap up this one. So we're going to go ahead and glue this piece down. Okay, and how about we put a couple little enamel dots on it just to give it a little something extra. So I've got a bunch of enamel dots here. These are faux enamel dots. They are made with Nuvo drops. And let's see, we got some red and some blue. And we do have some yellow. Okay, so how about we just do 3, and we're just going to do some random placement of these. So how about we do 1 here, 1 over here, and maybe 1 up here. How about just like that to finish it off? And there we go. There we have a finished card that was made from just a random piece of watercolor scrap that I had, and some written instructions that we really didn't even follow, not to a T, but just enough, and now we have a completed card just that quick. So I don't know, I think it might be worth putting together little kits like this. But again, let me know in the comments, what do you do whenever you have a bunch of random pieces sitting on your desk from projects that you've done? Do you store them, or do you put together in kits? What do you do with them? Maybe you have a better idea than what I have. So I'd really like to know. So this is our midweek card this week, and I'm really happy that you stopped by to join me for this one. It was a lot of fun to be here during the middle of the week instead of just on Saturdays. So let me know, do you like being here in the middle of the week? Should we continue doing midweek videos? I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And I'll see you in Saturday's video.